because this guy's walking around Boston right now. And he ends up saying that growing up, like, you got into fights. That's just what happened in Southie. And you didn't have to win them all, but you had to show up. And that's kind of how I feel about Hassan, is like, look, I'm not even going to judge you based off of whether you win or lose. Same thing with like other people that people that I've trained have beef with, of which there's surprisingly a lot of them. It's not about whether you win or lose. It's about whether or not you showed up. If Hassan showed up, got in the ring and got one punched, right. And he just woke up like head facing the ceiling, I'd still have more respect for him than I do now.
Right.
Because at least he showed up. Sure, he didn't do that well. He kind of got put out, but he showed up, and it's that I'm not someone who walks around trying to police others and things like that. But when it comes to Hassan, he puts himself out there. So if you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to get tested, I don't.
Everyone, and welcome back to the Meme Ranch. This is Kalen, and I'm here with your host, XVALA.
What's up?
And we have a great show for you tonight. We're going to be interviewing a guest who is one of the premier jiu-jitsu artists, I will call him, in Massachusetts. He is a brown belt, and he also is studying the arts of karate. He is good friends with Mr. Samuel Hyde. And not just good friends, but he has been one of the pivotal people who has been helping Sam train up fighters who will take down idubbbztv minions at the creatorclash. Just kidding. Not quite. But without further ado, I just want to bring Scott Sullivan here onto the stage. Scott, thanks for joining us here on the Meme Ranch. How's it going?
Thanks for having me, man. It's going good. What about you?
Yeah, we're having a great time here. We're just excited to have you on the show and talk to us a little bit about yourself and, your background and jiu-jitsu and other martial arts, and just kind of, get a little bit of a feel for, how you, play into, Sam's universe, because I feel like you are someone who's really instrumental. I've heard him talk about you and, just all the praise that he's given. And I just thought you seemed like a very fascinating guy. Not to mention, I love your dedication and your openness with your faith and in Christ. I think that's a really admirable component.
Yeah. So I got started in martial arts. I was kind of young. I was like 7 or 8. My dad, he didn't box competitively. He was a hobbyist. But he boxed, and he wanted me to be able to protect. He taught me just like extremely basic stuff like jab, cross, hook, ducking under punches, things like that. And I think that's kind of where the bug came from. I kind of got bit by that fighting bug. And from there, I always wanted to do it. It was always something kind of in the background. But I had other sports that I'd play. Then high school came around. I ended up doing wrestling. And after that, I decided that I wanted to get into fighting. So I started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. And, I tried to keep up with the boxing a little bit more and stuff like that. I had a few fights, and lately I've just been training people, and that's kind of how I ended up bumping into Sam Hyde. I was on Instagram. I was a fan of his. And I noticed that he wanted to fight Hassan Piker. And I figured, well, for one thing, I like Sam. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's cool. I was going to say, I noticed he wanted to fight Sam Hyde, and I was like, wow, I noticed that Sam Hyde wanted to fight Hassan Piker is what I meant to say.
Right.
And I figured, all right, well, I'm a fan of Sam Hyde. I also don't like Hassan Piker. So if I can't punch Hassan Piker, why don't I train the guy who's going to?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that led me to trying to get in touch with him. And, we ended up meeting up. And, I guess you could say the rest is history. I've helped him train for his fight. I've helped other YouTubers train for their fights and stuff like that. That's, how I ended up getting on fishtank as well. I, was training people on fishtank.
Really, real quick, before we get into anything else, I want to know, just like first and foremost, like what is the trait about Hassan Piker that really kind of rubs you the wrong way, and maybe other people, like what prompted that in your gut that you were just like, I want to help people eventually punch this guy, if that ever came to be?
Well, I mean, whenever you talk about someone like Hassan Piker, right, people are just going to automatically assume it's a politics thing. And regardless of how I feel about his politics, I'm not even going to say whether I feel like pro or anti Hassan's politics. I just don't like his attitude. I don't like people who are haughty. I don't like people who have had it easy, but they try and act like they've had it hard. I don't like people who treat others like I don't like people who treat others bad just for the sake of it, right? Because they uncle is the owner of a media company, and they're well off because of that. In addition to that, he also tries to front as though he's a tough guy. This is actually something Sam has said. He fronts like he's the tough guy, alpha male. I'm not a soy boy leftist, and I mean, if you're going to front like that, you should be able to back it up when somebody calls you out.
Right. I like what you're saying because it comes from a fighter spirit. And what I mean by that, it's a true underdog point of view. You're really rooting for the underdog. And you never hear that from somebody who, I guess, what's the word? Acts like they're about that, but they're really not. And I feel like that kind of gives you the fire to go out and take on an opponent you shouldn't be able to take on. Is that I'm not a fighter, so I don't know, but I'm just asking. Like, is
Yeah,
that underdog spirit?
yeah. I'm about to do a very Boston thing here. There's a guy, he used to run with Whitey Bulger's crew. He was kind of like his right hand man. I believe his name is Kevin Weeks. I know his last name was Weeks. I forget his first name, but I was watching a documentary on him, and it had an interview because this guy's walking around Boston right now. And he ends up saying that growing up, like, you got into fights. That's just what happened in Southie. And you didn't have to win them all, but you had to show up. And that's kind of how I feel about Hassan, is like, look, I'm not even going to judge you based off of whether you win or lose. Same thing with like other people that, people that I've trained have beef with, of which there's surprisingly a lot of them. It's not about whether you win or lose. It's about whether or not you showed up, If Hassan showed up, got in the ring and got one punched, right? And he just woke up like head facing the ceiling, I'd still have more respect for him than I do now.
Right.
Because at least he showed up. Sure, he didn't do that well. He kind of got put out, but he showed up, And it's that I'm not someone who walks around trying to police others and things like that. But when it comes to Hassan, he puts himself out there. So if you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to get tested, I don't put myself out there in the same way. I don't act like I could beat up everybody. There's a lot of people who could kick my ass. I could name them for you, right? But Hassan is one of those guys who thinks that he's the baddest. And it's like, well, you got to test that theory, don't you?
Yeah, and there's something that's kind of like the deflections that he always has whenever he is confronted with any, sort of, trial or something like that, is just really kind of it grinds there, because like he'll always just deflect and like call Sam the nuclear word or something, and like say like, I don't know that Nazi guy. It's like, I don't know, man. It's just like there's something about it that's just like he has the capability, he has the gall in him, that he has fighting words, but he's got no gumption behind him. And it's like he's a decently sized guy. He wouldn't be a hard person to train. No way. Like, would he like struggle in that regard? He would be someone that should be helping out idubbbz, especially at this time. $250,000 in the red. Perhaps getting some actual known people to fight at Creator Clash. This is the thing about Ian, is that he has so much potential to actually give back to the charities that he wants to give back to, if he would get the people involved. I mean, look at how much money Fish Tank raised. Could you imagine if Sam was someone who could actually be involved in that type of event? And it's like, you're out here saying like, oh, there's too many people pirating, Creator Clash and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. It's just like, you're the one who's gatekeeping the people that people online want to see. And by doing that, you're kind of like shooting yourself in the foot, you know? I mean, I don't know if other people see it that way, but that's just how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody on Twitter who does not have a hammer and sickle logo in their Twitter bio or their Twitter name sees it the exact same as you do. And it's all the most unnecessary shit from all of them, you know, from idubbbz, from Hassan, from all these people. And it's just their way of trying to it's a method of control at the end of the day, right? If you make me feel a little bit sad sometimes, if you make me feel like I have to think about myself in a real way, in a way that is actually going to help me grow in a legitimate manner, as opposed to what Ian is doing now, which is just, if he was all the way over here on this extreme 5 years ago, now he's run all the way to the other side of the extreme. You know, the second you start making someone like take a look at themselves like that, the second you start making someone realize that, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not the best person ever, they'll do anything that they can do to try and make sure that you are not only excluded from what they're doing, but also that you're down bad too. That's why when Froggy got kicked off, they came to him and they were like, oh, give us back the money and then don't ever talk about us.
Mm-hmm.
That's bullshit, you know? And I'm glad Froggy didn't do that, because the way I see it going down, I don't think anything good would have happened if he did give that money back, right? He didn't have the money to give in the first place, but like,
Right.
if he did like start a GoFundMe, like, please bail me out, guys. I don't think anything good would have happened. I think what could have potentially happened is Ian would have gotten his money. He would have gotten an NDA signed by Froggy. And then Ian could have, in theory, potentially started bad mouthing Froggy in a way that Froggy could not respond to. I'm not saying it would have definitely happened. I'm just saying, in theory, the way I see it, there's a possibility that that could have gone down. It's just bad faith shit. It's just bad faith shit from everybody involved. And it's just this weird shit where they just keep handing themselves L's over and over, and each L that they hand themselves, they try and fight harder to get the other guy to like they try and fight harder to hurt the other guy, but it always just comes back around and hurts them, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, not only is there a deficit on the Creator Clash budget, but there's also a deficit on the money that's owed to someone that we all know and love, and that's Airsoft Fatty. You know, I love those T-shirts that you guys made from that. That was hilarious. I wanted to actually, you know, get that up on the screen if I can, just for a second, just to get to show our viewers like kind of one of the scenes where you were actually on the show. And before I click play, I just wanted to know, like, were you ever one of the people in the red masks, the sharks on the show?
No, I was never one of the sharks. It was always Jet, Tax, or Ben, and then there was one where I'm pretty sure it was Damiel. But no, I was never a shark.
Yeah, I saw that clip of your holding one, so I thought maybe that was the case. But yeah, we'll just show this clip real quick, because it was this was a hilarious moment. I remember watching this one live. If it's loading, oh no.
I think I know what the moment is.
Let's give it a second.
Let me see if we can just click ahead. There we go.
There we go. Nice.
So tell us a little bit, you know, like, what was in your head, like, when you were doing these kinds of things? Like, were you thinking about like all the thousands of people out there that were, you know, like kind of watching this and like thinking, like, you know, like not to mention, like, what was it like to get yelled at by, like, maybe not you specifically, but just like text to speech? Like, I'm sure that was kind of like jarring at some points, right?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because like you know, it's like walking up the stairs. I'm not gonna lie, the heart rate started kind of increasing, right? But it was also because usually when I would go up the stairs, I would have sort of like a thing that I would be trying to do. So it's like a pre mission, right? Stuff. It was never anything too big. It's just like the guys would feed me things to say to certain people.
Right.
But like when you end up going up there, you just kind of walk through the door and you're like, oh, this is a regular house with like people in it. You almost expect it to have like a golden aura or something
Right.
like that, but no, it's just regular. It is bizarre though because you're watching from God's angle on the show, but you know, to be on the ground is like pretty crazy. You know, seeing these people face to face. Um, Overall, I was just trying to make sure that I wasn't annoying and that gonna make a I wasn't gonna make a fool of myself in a bad way. Because like from what I understand, Brandon was like this too. Um, when it comes to combat sports, it's real easy for people who are really into them to get really annoying about them. You know?
Just to be clear, Buckingham, right?
Oh yeah, Brandon Buckingham. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's real easy for people who are into combat sports to get annoying about them because we'll sit there like in the middle of a grocery store, like sitting here like, all right, so if you hold your hands like this, you can do this with it, right? We'll do that. That's like I said, it's my autism. I get to pick the fixation, right?
Right.
Um, so like I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get like annoying with it or boring with it, especially when I did the chokes and stuff like that, the jujitsu stuff. And then two, um, like I'm the kind of person that I'm really goal oriented. If the goal is to make people laugh, then I'm not afraid to look like an idiot about it, right? But it's got to be in pursuit of people laughing with me and not at me. So like I was afraid that I was going to do something where people would be laughing at me instead of with me.
Right.
But luckily that didn't happen. You know, luckily it was all good.
Give us an idea what life has been since Fish Tank is wrapped up. What's it been like for you?
I mean, I'm a star now. I'm a star. I can't
You
go
are.
anywhere. People bothering me all the time for autographs and things like that. It's ridiculous. No, I mean, not much has changed. It's just kind of a really cool memory. You know, more people do kind of know about me now.
Right.
It's e fame type stuff, and it's not even like it's huge. It's just like, you know, and instead of 100 views on my YouTube videos, I get like 400 now. You know,
Mhm.
stuff like that. Um, you know, it's nice though. Like it's cool knowing that I got to be a part of internet history and probably like history because maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's been anything uh of that sort that has like ever been created. And if it did, it probably wasn't as good as this, you know.
No, it's definitely unique. I don't think you're overselling that. So
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, you know, like a lot of people, like, you know, people that we interviewed, like Ty and John and stuff like that. I mean, they're they've been able to sort of, I mean, John especially has been able to propel himself, but I mean, like, I think Ty had like another thing going already. And like, I think that he is like one of those people that, you know, you saw him on Fish Tank, you'll see him, you know, headlining what's it called? Like the Austin Comedy Club,
stand
Joe
up,
Rogan's.
Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
Mothership
Yeah.
Community or something.
Yeah, Mothership or whatever, you know, like, because I mean, he's Austin based, and I mean, I just see him like going on like Kill Tony, and if he hasn't already or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think even what you were saying before, how there's something that's so different about the bird's eye view of the house versus what you actually see on camera. I mean, I'm sure you've heard what everyone's sort of been saying is that, you know, it's going to be a completely different vibe, you know, to see it from the perspective of like the cameras on the ground, because everyone's so used to not really being able to see everyone's face super clearly. There's something that's kind of humorous in that aspect of it, I think, to not like be able to like make out everyone's like perceptions of certain things, and also not like even being able to understand them that well, depending on how many people are shouting, you know, at one time in the house. So I feel like it's just going to be like watching the show in like 4K and seeing it from a completely different
Seeing
angle.
that new narrative too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, it's yeah, you have like the fishermen in the boat looking down on the fish, and then you have the sharks. You know, we're getting the shark's eye view when they edit it all together, which I'm really excited for because I want to see Because like me, like I was in there like once a week for a few hours, you know. There was
Mhm.
a lot of stuff that I missed, a lot of things that I did happen to see when I was just like, you know, keeping up and watching and stuff like that. You know, I'm excited to see things that I missed. You know, I'm excited to see my own parts, assuming that, you know, I do get in there. You know, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm definitely going to be in there. You know, you never know. You know, but like it's just I really want to see it. You know, hopefully they end up getting it out before season 2 comes out. I would assume they're gonna, but you know,
Have you heard? I mean, are you going to be involved in the second season at this point, or can?
yeah. I mean, if they need me, if they want me, I'm down. You know,
Cool.
there's no reason for me to say no. You know,
Hey,
I'm not the kind of guy who likes to try and bother people and stuff like that. You know, I'm letting them do their thing, and you know, if it sounds like they want something having to do with fitness or, you know, combat sports or anything like that for the second season. So if they do, then I'm definitely down. But you know, I'm not like in contact with Jet like, oh hey, so when's the next season? When am I going to be coming in? You know, nothing like that. At least not right now. You know.
so part of the reason I was going to ask about life after fish tank is that obviously when you're training jujitsu, karate, Muay Thai, all these things, that's a full plate. I mean, you're spending all your time thinking about your training, doing your training, resting, eating, all that stuff, and now you're involved in things like fish tank or maybe more online on social media. How is this going to how are you going to is this going to impact your trajectory as, you know, combat sport athlete, or are you going to merge the two worlds, or do you see any direction forward?
Well, when it comes down to it, priorities have changed for me over the last few years. You know, I had my first fight when I was 19. I've had like 6 or 7 like actual like sanctioned fights, and then, you know, a few like exhibitions and things like that. Um I do want to keep fighting. You know, I do want to see where I can take it, but it's not the priority like it was years ago. Um you know, cuz
Is that
I'm getting
recent?
older. What's that?
More recent? Is that a more recent development? Is this impacted by current events, or is it just how things kind of are going to progress?
It's just kind of how things are going to progress, because, you know, I want to start having kids, and I got to get, you know, not that my life is in shambles, but I do got to get my life together to be able to do that. Um,
Right.
you know, and then in addition to that, I'm trying other ventures and things like that where I still can train, but you know, it's less that I have to be the one to fight, like training other people, you know. It's kind of a wherever the wind takes me sort of thing. If Fish Tank turns into this big opportunity for me, and, you know, there's like 20 seasons of it, and they want to bring me in as like a regular part of it, and because of that I have to take some time away from training, like, all right, I'll do that.
Right.
If I never talk to anybody again and I just fall off, and all I have to do is train, then yeah, I mean, I'll train, and if I feel like fighting, I'll fight. um One thing I wouldn't mind, though, you said about combining them. One thing I wouldn't mind is the idea of Misfits Boxing. I wouldn't mind that, because they do have some guys with talent on there. Sometimes they even have the talented guys beating on the less talented guys, which I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying, like,
Right.
you know, they're not opposed to the idea of someone who has been boxing for a long time being on one of their cards, you know. Um, and you know, because of that, like, I mean, if an opportunity opens up, you know, I might as well. Like I said, it's wherever the wind takes me.
I like that. I mean, it's honest. I mean, and it's also, I think it's also the best way to have success is to look at your options and explore those, and not just not be so stubborn about what you have to achieve. You know, let it come to you a little bit.
Well, I think it's also pretty admirable that you're, you know, thinking about family and stuff like that too, because I think that, you know, a lot of people, sometimes you hear stories where it's like people, all they do is focus on their career, and then they realize later on in life that they were focused on like all the wrong things, and that they could have still had a happy life with what they were doing, but they, you know, missed out on the opportunity to like actually have a family and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Are you with someone right now? Are you guys like, do you have like a house, and or are you working towards that?
Yeah, I have a wife. She's actually sitting in the room with me right now.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I try to keep her off camera and things like that, just because
Yeah.
yeah. The fish tank lore states that I'm dating Sylvia. That's just kind of a joke that we keep up. It half the time we don't even keep it up, but like half the time we do.
Right.
But yeah, like I'm married. We're sitting here talking about kids. We're both in our late 20s, so we don't want to wake up and be 37 and be like, oh, like we should have had kids like 10 years ago. Like, what's wrong with us?
Right.
We're trying to make sure we avoid a situation like that. So that's kind of why priorities have changed, is because I have an opportunity to have a family, and I don't want to. I won't say waste it necessarily, because like martial arts is a very good use of my time, but I don't want to squander it. I guess I could say, squander is probably a better word for it.
Yeah, I think it's great that Sam's been talking about the importance of that with his fans, because I know a lot of them are younger. I know several people that are younger that watch Sam, and it's such a juxtaposition, because there's so many people that would like hear Sam, and they would not see him as like an influence, but it's because they know nothing about him. They only know him for like one or two things. But so many people miss that whole arc where it was like Sam even admits today where he wasn't making the best content, but he was just making videos like out in parking lots and talking to people. And in some ways there was almost an arc where there was a little bit more black pill in some of his messages that he was doing post MDE, and then you almost saw sort of a man going through a transition or like a journey that was enlightening him, and also he was able to show through his own strifes and stuff like that, like tell people what to do and what not to do. And a lot of it kind of it's funny because of like the half serious delivery. Like sometimes people like look at the advice and it's people can like just laugh at it and say like that's fucking stupid, but then like sometimes he says some really fucking wise things. And I think that that's like the magnet to so many people, is that it's like half of it just feels like a shit post that you can just like laugh at, and then half of it feels like I'm actually getting some sort of deeper message that's being spoken to me. I wonder if that was anything similar to your experience before you met him, like were you when you were just kind of like a fan before that?
Yeah. Yeah, like it kind of is. I was kind of late to the game in terms of Sam Hyde, MDE, that stuff. I figured out about him in like 2017, 2018. So actually kind of shortly after, the Adult Swim debacle.
Right.
And it was funny because like I was going through kind of a change in my life. I wasn't using my time as wisely as I should have in my late teens, early 20s. I was doing a lot of, foolish things and stuff like that. And I kind of went through a phase where I was just like, yo, I gotta get my shit together. I guess you could still say I'm in that phase because, I'm always thinking about how I can do things better. But I ended up finding Sam, like, I'd say like probably like halfway, well, maybe not halfway through, but like probably like 6 or so months into me kind of trying to start turning my life around and stuff like that. And that's when he was kind of at the height of his like, hey, like, here's how you live your life. Like, don't be an idiot. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do the other thing sort of content. So like, I kind of gravitated towards it right away because I was kind of in a similar position, even though, the way we got there was different. Just kind of trying to reorganize and figure things out. So that's really what kind of got me into him. But I will say that, yeah, like the nature of his comedy, some of the things he would say sometimes I was like, oh, like, is that real? Is that real advice? Is that real advice right now? Or is he messing around? But it's actually not that hard to tell when he's joking and when he's not, like, and then sometimes he's saying something serious, but it's meant to be funny as well, if you're not, oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, I was going to say, if you're not paying close attention, you know, you might not be able to tell the difference. But if you are paying attention, you'll see that there's certain cues and there's certain ways that he's saying things, and you'll be like, oh no, that was a joke. That was not a joke. That was serious, but he was being funny about it, you know?
It's kind of an education, really, if you're paying attention and you're trying to really take in what is being done and performed in front of you. You're going to get an education from it. Tell me about Scott, how you guys actually met. Like, how did you guys? What was it like when you met in person? At what point through this journey were you guys actually able to meet and then start working together?
This is actually a kind of a funny story. So I end up there's you know, I'll start from the beginning. I actually told this story on Fishtank, a little bit of it anyway. So in 2021, I tried out for BKFC, which is Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. They have open tryouts for people and stuff like that. I tried out. I didn't get a call from them right away. And I ended up inboxing Sam because what I wanted to do was I wanted to try and impress upon the matchmaker so that I would kind of stand out a little bit. And I typed up this thing and I was like, okay, who do I know that's not a goober? Well, Sam Hyde talks all about how not to be a booger guy. So why don't I inbox him? And he's probably not going to answer me, right? But I'll inbox him and I'll see if he, you know, if tell me whether or not like this is a good idea. I inboxed him, I sent him the thing, and he said, "Hey man, I'd hire you." He literally said that, and again, that's one of those things where it's like, dude, is he joking? Is he fucking with me right now?
What did you think? He's joking, right? Is that what you thought?
Half and half, right?
Okay.
Because on one hand, I was like, whatever, like, you know, Sam Hyde, like, I like him, but it's not like he and I are ever going to be in a room together or anything. You know, what do I care if he's fucking with me right now? Whatever. Like, that's what I was thinking at the time. I think I said, like, hey, thank you, man. I really hope you're not just being nice right now, you know, which was my polite way of saying, I hope you're not fucking with me. He said, no, like, really, it's good. So I was like, okay. I ended up sending it to the matchmaker and he got back to me and he wanted me on a card, but I ended up declining, and I can talk about that later. I guess, you know, it's not that, you know, it's not that interesting, but, so like it worked, right? Like Sam said, go for it. And it worked. That's kind of how we got like the ice broken a little bit. Right. After that, I was like, oh, like, thank you so much, dude. Like, he hit me up. Feel free to follow my you know, my MMA account, because I actually have a separate Instagram account for, you know, private stuff and family and stuff like that. So he followed me on that account. And then later on, the whole Hassan thing popped off. And I was in his comment section. I was like, yo, hit me up. I can help you train. And he ended up inboxing me. And that's how, you know, that's kind of how we got talking about like actually training. Now, the day that he and I met was, the day that he and I met was actually kind of funny as well, because he gives me an address to show up at, right? And it was the place that he was staying at.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the address that's on the idubbbz documentary? Or is that his office?
No, that was his office. That was his office.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. But I show up, right? I pull in, and he ends up walking out like 10 minutes later. He had to do something. He had to finish something up. He walks out like 10 minutes later, and it was funny. I'm just sitting here and like don't get me wrong. You know, it was just meeting a guy, right? It's not like I was like, whoa, Sam Hyde, whoa. Like, it wasn't like that, right. But it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
He ends up walking, right? And he's walking across the parking lot, and I'm like, wow, this is fucking Sam Hyde. He's tall as shit. Holy fuck. He is an absolute unit. He gets halfway across the parking lot, but somebody walks over and they're like, hey, you have a package. So he ends up like, if he's going this way, he cuts that way, right, to go get the package. He picks it up. It is the most Ted K looking shit you have ever seen. I'm talking like an old shoebox held together with duct tape. There's stuff scrawled all over it. Like I'm not lying. Like I don't know if he remembers this, but like, maybe he probably doesn't remember it. But like there was nothing good in that package. You knew it right away. He picks it up. He's walking over, and like I see it, and I mentioned something. I was like, "Yo, is that thing ticking, bro?" And he's like, I mean, it might be. You didn't leave this there, did you? And I was like, fuck, he thinks I'm a weirdo. Shit. I was like, nah, man. Like if I was gonna give you something, I would have just gave it to you. There's no reason to just leave it there.
Sounds like you guys it off, actually. It's like you handled that perfect.
I tried to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, I mean, that right there makes it, apparent he's super easygoing. And part of me, like he gives off such like I don't know, like he's like he's just he's just a positive influence, but he does it in like a way that it was like back in like 2014, like whenever Jordan Peterson was like still cool, you know what I mean? And then now Jordan Peterson's kind of like started just like saying weird stuff on Twitter, and
the lobsters.
even like well, I mean, like even beyond that, like it's just he's a little bit cringe online, JP. But it's like Sam is like he gives you a good message in such a stepdad way, like but like a good stepdad. And I just got to know, I mean, like you're a man of faith, like you have, I would assume similar values. I mean, I don't know what sect you are, but like I'm just curious, like I've never heard much about Sam's faith. Like he doesn't talk about it, and maybe he doesn't, have one necessarily, but I just want to know, like, since you're kind of his friend, like do you know like where he lies, or is that too personal to ask?
I mean, I've never really asked him, it's not that I never talk about it. It's that I avoid talking about faith with like people like, that I know and stuff like that, just because I found that it alienates people a lot, which is unfortunate, because I'll sit here just like with martial arts. I'll talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but I'm afraid of alienating people.
Right.
Right.
Which in terms of martial arts, it's like, whatever, you don't want to box. That's fine. But with Christianity, regardless of sect, like it's a matter of like, it's much deeper than just you don't want to like get punched in the head, right? But I do know he's got a Bible. I have heard him talk about it on a live stream once or twice. He said that he believes in Jesus. He doesn't do the whole
denomination.
Yeah, denominations thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically all I've heard. I would assume that he because I know he's said some things about certain things in the past. It's just whatever though. But I would assume that given he's got a Bible, he said he believes in Jesus, that he's probably, even if he's non-denominational, he is some form of Christian. But it's not something that I talk to him about. It's not even really something that I think about too much. My main concern is how you're treating the people around you, how you're treating me, how you're treating yourself even,
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's between you and Christ, just like it's between me and Christ and my status with Christ. While I may throw that out there, other people might not want to talk about it that much. It's like I was in a Bible study recently with some buddies of mine, and we got to a passage. I forget which one it was. I'm so bad at remembering, but it said, pray in a closet, basically. Was basically the takeaway from it. Don't just pray around people for the sake of looking good while praying. Pray alone if you really are like about it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. Don't be chauvinistic and all of that. And I think that's I mean, as someone who I consider myself non-denominational, it's like that's cool to hear that, just from like a relatability standpoint. But secondly, just knowing that I think that's probably where he probably would like lie to. He'd probably be like, well, it's between you and your maker kind of thing. And I've never seen Sam be a venomous person. Like he's always coming from like a spot of care, even with like some of like the hilarious jokes about what's her name,
Anissa.
anyways, yeah, Anissa, yeah. I mean, it's like, in some ways it is coming from a spot of love, because there's certain things that that could be life changing for Ian if he went forth with it. If he actually, you know, I don't know. I think a lot of people, the general consensus nowadays, anyways, is like they don't want to see Ian falter. They just want to see him, back up. You know what I mean? Is that? I mean, do you feel that way a little bit, XVALA?
I was gonna say, I like what Sam says. It's just good people having good fun. It's you can read the subcontext there, but it's obviously, that's kind of a critique, but it's done nicely. That's what Sam says about Anissa and Ian.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I agree. It's like I said with Ian, right? His issue is that he was so far in one extreme, right? That his idea was like, oh, well, I've decided that I was not a good person. I have decided that what I was doing was bad, which I'm not even going to say like everything that he did was like great. Like, no, like you don't want to say the N word anymore. Just don't say the N word. Right. But he has judged everything that he did back then to be bad. So now he's all the way on the other side now. There is no middle ground. There is no nothing. And like that's kind of the takeaway from what you were saying a second ago, the good people having good fun thing. Is that it's more about Ian trying to virtue signal that he is now a good guy. He was bad, but now he's good, and things like that. And I do agree that Sam is not a venomous person. He's one of the few people in the world that I have been around that I don't feel has some kind of ulterior motive to him. I don't feel like he's gonna try to pressure me into doing anything. I don't feel that I'm gonna get screwed over in any way, shape, or form, or anything like that. He's really just a good dude. At the end of the day, he's like completely normal, good dude. And I mean, there's really not much more to it than that. I'm not gonna lie. Like at first, I expected somebody who was going to be a little bit more off the walls and stuff like that.
Right. The great downplay it. I think the great ones have the ability to downplay everything instead of like build it up and try and seem like they're bigger than the situation. They don't have that insecurity where they have to seem like they're incapable of letting somebody else have a moment. They're confident.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's what a lot of people in the content creating space lack, is the ability to just like I won't say lose necessarily, because it's not about losing, right? The ability to not win as much as they want to all the time, right? Like I actually met someone recently. They're going to remain nameless, but I met them and they were involved with some like heavy hitters in the internet scene and stuff like that. And they got away from it. And like I was sitting here talking to them about it, and they told me like, yo, like I'm around all these people whose names, if I said, which I don't want to, but if I said these people's names, like she told me that she was around all these people who like they're big names. You would know them if I said them, right? Sure. And all these people, they try to seem like they're cool and stuff like that, and like they're here for the right reasons and everything, but it's just a constant game of, am I winning with them? Like, am I like, me and this person are hanging out, but am I winning? Me and this person, we're on a stream together. Am I winning though? I'm eating I'm eating some Chinese food with my wife. Well, you probably heard that. My bad. I'm eating Chinese food with my wife, and she's trying to ruin the stream. Oh, I love you, babe. No, but like you get what I'm saying though. Like it's always like, am I on top? Am I on
Right.
top? Am I winning? Like, am I getting the most? And it's crazy. And I think that's kind of where idubbbz is, and that's kind of why I consider myself to be lucky to have become an acquaintance of Sam, as opposed to any other person that I could have been an acquaintance of, because he's not just thinking like, oh, I need to win, you know. Oh, I'm doing boxing with this guy on fishtank. Am I winning though? Am I winning? You know, it's not that.
You're winning now because I put your at right there. Social clout, social credit up. You know,
am I winning? Am I winning now?
Hey, Scott, I want to know how you and Sam, that moment when you guys met, how you matched up physically. You know, the chemistry and just the physicality.
Did you suck his dick? Okay.
The physicality of being in each other's presence, and like, you know, because you're a combat guy, and I think Sam was at that point as well. So like, how do you, when you meet somebody for the first time, how do you size them up? I mean, not in a bad way, but just like, you know, you read them.
Well, Sam has always been a combat guy. It's just that he, you know, he got into a lot of like bad stuff when he was younger. You know, like he told me he did kung fu. He's got a funny story about his kung fu instructor that he tells every now and again. He did like taekwondo, which taekwondo isn't that bad, but the way it gets used a lot of the time is kind of bad. I was sufficiently impressed with his boxing skill from day one. You know, I'll say that right away. But physically, I knew like, because Sam's not just tall, he's also like a massive guy. He's like broad shouldered, you know. Me, like, I'm tall, but I'm not that tall, right? I'm big, but I'm not that big, right? I'm on the low end of big and tall.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew right away, like, okay, I'm gonna have to fight like a flyweight with this guy. You know, I'm gonna have to use a lot of head movement. I'm either going to have to be way out or I'm going to have to be way in on him. And there's actually a video on my channel where I go over some of the sparring we did in the fish tank. And
Mm-hmm.
you can see me say this, that because I didn't have a lot of room to try and run away from him, I kind
Mm-hmm.
of just had to get in close, right? I knew right away that was going to be a problem regardless of his skill level, because when somebody that big hits you, it's going to hurt no matter what. Like Sam holds back on me a lot in terms of the power that he uses.
Mm-hmm.
But it still hurts. You know, it's not fun getting hit by him by any means. You know, so like I knew I was gonna have my work cut out for me, right? Whenever we would spar and things like that. There it is. There it
Yeah,
is.
wait. I'll
Helping him
skip
with
ahead
his
to the actual
pants.
sparring.
Sorry.
I don't know if this is one with.
No, I think while we're looking for that, I also I thought this was quite a quite a profound image that Glink, a friend of the show, I'll call him, because we've done some recordings with him, saying that, you know, like, we're entering a new era. This picture struck me not because it's, you know, with Charles and, you know, rest of the MD gang and stuff like that, but it's more so like that stream was something else. Like to do it with, like, on the property of what's his face,
Nick Rochefort?
Nick, yeah, Nick. Yeah, I can't remember Nick's name. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, it just seemed like such a nice family gathering, and it seems like a you know, those are sort of the values that I think are being, like, cast down onto, like, a bunch of people, and, like, I don't know, it just seems like a very positive influence for a lot of people, and that, on top of the fact that we're about to launch into MDE2, like, that's going to be an incredible, you know, like, that's going to be like Fish Tank 2, and then we're going to get the season after that. So I mean, it seems like the the collaboration and the overall, like, just good vibes that are happening, you know, the ability for people to joke around with each other and say, like, the most offensive, you know, dirtbag things, but all, like, in good and good taste and, like, humor. Like, I mean, I feel like so many people, I mean, even what's her name? From the from Fish Tank.
That's Sylvia.
Sylvia.
Sylvia, yeah, Sylvia. Like Sylvia seemed like from an outward perspective, like that she could be someone who might be kind of like, you know, SJW-esque. Like maybe that's me like casting on her. I apologize, Sylvia. But I mean, like obviously, you know, like impressions are nothing, you know, because you know nothing about someone until you actually get to know from them. And everyone on that show, you know, that doesn't matter what their political orientation is at heart. Like they can just, I don't know. It just felt like a refreshing, almost like high school-esque, like everyone is saying whatever they want and no one gets butthurt about it. Like I don't know. You just don't find that anywhere else.
Mm. Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you compared it to high school, because when people usually compare things to high school, it's usually in a bad way. But
I love high school.
I couldn't fucking stand it. But I see what you're saying, because now that I'm about 10 years removed from high school, I'm looking at all these people that like I hated high school because I was the weird kid, but I
Hey.
could have been cool with them,
Me
and
too.
like I could run around and like, you know, mess around in class with these people and stuff like that, right? And there was no question of like, oh, what are your political beliefs? Where do you stand on this issue and things like that.
Right.
Now I'm like checking in on people to see like what they're up to, and it's just their whole timeline on Facebook or Instagram or, you know, whatever doom scrolling app they use. It's all just like political stuff that makes me not want to be their friend. Where it's like, yo, like you're advocating for stuff that is like bad for me personally, and not in like a way that's like, oh, not in a respectable way, in a way that's like spiteful. You're
Right.
doing it because you want to hurt me. And it's like, yo, we sat at lunch together, like we were cool. You know, I remember the good times.
Yeah.
Those meant something to me. You know, even if I would think about something that was not beneficial to you, I wouldn't do it in a way that's supposed to be like, hey, yo, fuck these people. Like that's not what it's meant to be, you know? But
Yeah, the tribalism was, you know, as much as you think, you know, kids can be tribalistic, like it was like the tribalism that we talk about today was just not there, you know.
oh yeah, you know. And I think it's partially the time, right? Like we're just because I remember like pre like 2014, like I was part of the reason I was the weirdo is because I was the very strongly opinionated one who couldn't stop like posting his like opinions on Facebook and things like that, right?
Mhm.
Um, like you didn't have anybody doing that. Like then 2014 hits and all of a sudden everybody else is doing that. And it's just like it's so weird. But then I also think it's because like if you're gonna be around people every day of your life, you sort of you don't get to pick and choose, and because you can't pick and choose, you
Excuse me.
because you can't pick and choose, you just got to kind of put up with the people around you, you know. Once you graduate, you can pick and choose a little bit more, which means you can be like, oh, I support this issue. I only want to be around people who do as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know. I think that we often like we as humans often like have the ability to like look back on the past and be like, yeah, I mean, maybe it actually wasn't as bad, you know, because we're all adults now and have, you know, our own, you know, shit to do. So it's like it's really easy to look at times that we didn't like as much, but you know, often find that they, you know, were actually, you know, not that bad, and in some ways can be like reminiscent. Um, but yeah, I don't really, you know. I don't really know like where else to go, but I just kind of know like want to know from you, Scott. You know, what do you think? What's like a message that you would like to, you know, give to people that you think is missing, generally from our current overall zeitgeist of information and all the pessimism that's out there?
Um, I'd say that we were all failed by the system. Like every single one of us, even people who have it good, they were failed, right? Just for one reason or another, they have it good. It has failed us in more ways than one. It hates us. It doesn't want us to be here. It doesn't want us to exist. And because we exist, that in and of itself is, I don't want to say a revolutionary act, because, that word revolutionary, it tends to lump you in with certain kinds of people, but it's an act of defiance, right? That makes the people who are benefited by the system, it makes those people angry, right? It's kind of spitting in their face. And just existing alone in the state that you're in, right? And not just that, but trying to improve every day, trying to get rid of the bad habits, trying to add more good habits. That right there is enough. You don't need to worry about doom scrolling Twitter for politics and posting a bunch of stuff, which is something I do every now and again. I make a post that could be potentially political, and then I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I delete it, right? You don't need to run around in the streets with signs and things like that. You don't have to do a lot of the stuff that I saw people doing and that I kind of partook in a little bit here and there over the last 5 to 10 years, just existing and just refusing to be brought down by the system and the people that are benefited by the system is enough. Anything else is extraneous, and I'm not saying it's always a bad thing. I'm just saying that
Right.
don't worry yourself too much, because if you're worrying yourself, chances are they're winning a little bit more than they really should be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There's actually there's a comedian that I really like a lot. You guys probably know him. His name's Owen Benjamin, and he was kind of like a guy that was I can't remember if he was on SNL or if he got canceled in the past.
Yes.
But he's basically living, with his family now in kind of a rural area, and he's on Twitter. He's a nuclear denier, but through all his faults and things like that, there's momentary glimpses of advice that he gives that I just love, because it's it's almost echoing exactly what you were putting out there, just about we're all failed products of the system. And by you saying, by you kind of advising not to engage in political speech, it's not that you're telling people to self-censor, or be censored, but realize that the system itself is trying to make you more actively political so that you're fighting against each other, and that's what it wants to do, right?
Yeah. And not in one of those because I despise this, right? The people who they're the types of people who are man, they just want to divide us, man. Not even in that way. But just they want you to sit here and be so focused on politics, right? Overt politics, that you forget that you need a job, that you forget that it's easier to it's easier to exist if you're in a part of society or part of your area or your community. If you're in a part of your community where you are useful, right, or you're well liked, you're known as a good guy, right? It's so much easier that way. And since I've I won't say given up on politics, but since I've kind of taken a step back from sitting here and having to have my political opinions in everybody's face constantly, not only has life gotten easier, but I think more people like me overall. And I'm also able to be around people without not only getting into arguments, but without also being, without giving into their shit, like my karate instructor is practically a communist, they're and they have everything that goes with that, right?
Sure.
5 years ago, I would have walked in, they would have been like, hi, I'm Jessica, she, her. And I would have been like, she, her, right? There would have been a fight.
Right.
But no, I get along with this person perfectly, and she's not bad. She's not a bad person. I wouldn't keep going to her if she was. But it doesn't matter that I don't subscribe to what she subscribes to. She has no power over me to be able to make me do that, right? So I'm not going to do it. And because of that, I don't need to sit here and be like, grr, like, no, like, fuck you. You know, I don't need to do that. And again, because of that, I think that it's made me more well accepted in that space, which is good overall, because that's more people who are going to step up when you have some bad faith actor like Hassan, for instance, right? Or idubbbz, or you know, anybody else who likes to throw around, you call it the nuclear word, right? That's going to help me more when somebody decides they have it out for me, right? That's going to help me out, and it's also going to allow me to be able to make positive change in the way that I want to, you know?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like, if I'm just the guy who's like on Facebook screaming all day, no one's going to want to listen to me when I have a good idea. But if I'm the guy who, like, I helped old lady McGarvey shovel her driveway, and like, I don't start fights with the people who, you know, have like weird hair and, you know, like piercings and stuff like that. People are going to be more accepting of me. They're going to be more willing to listen to me. And life is just going to be easier and more fulfilling for me. I guess I'll just leave it at that. I feel like I'm starting to kind of ramble and talk in circles. You know, I apologize if I was.
I
No.
want to highlight something you just mentioned, and I think it's so important to find something that you feel personally is a good idea and is positive. And I don't mean to sound like too new age, but and build that into something that people can understand also is a good idea. Like, I think that's also what we're trying to do here with Meme Ranch is instead of like railing against things we don't like, we want to talk more about things that we think are good ideas, or maybe building some bridges, things like that. So, you know, it's more constructive as opposed to confrontational.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree. You know, that's the way to do things.
Yep. Well, Scott, we've kept you for more than an hour now. We want to say thanks again for just coming on the show. But before we leave, we got to give you a chance to shout out anything that you'd like anyone out there to see of yours, whether it's your channel, your Instagram. Let it go.
All of it.
All right, cool. My Instagram, Scott Sullivan MMA, or at Scott Sullivan MMA. My Twitter is at Sullivan_MMA. My OnlyFans is Scott Sullivan MMA. No, I'm kidding about that one. My YouTube.
You could still get it while you can. You can still retrieve that handle.
I probably should. Just in case. You never know. My YouTube channel is Scott Sullivan MMA, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, I have a Patreon if you want to sub to that, $5 a month, exclusive content. I don't know. Other than that, that's it. You know,
Scott Sullivan MMA Patreon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into this. This was a great show here with Scott, and we have many more coming your way here on the Meme Ranch.